And how does this reset the brain vis-a-vis an antidepressant versus what you have seen in the brain scan with the this psychedelic way of therapy, as you call it, right? I think that's really what I read. So
Yes.
how does it reset the brain, and how different is that?
Yeah, it's a fundamentally different to antidepressants. Uh, the way I like to describe it is antidepressants work on an evolutionary early part of the brain.
Hmm.
Deep inside the brain, there's a system called the limbic system, an area called the amygdala, and that's the stress center. Depressed people often get depressed because of stress. And what happens is that stress activates the stress center. And that then, through a mechanism we don't fully understand, leads to depression. Antidepressants dampen down the stress center. And we can image that. You can actually see that when you put people on antidepressants and you stress them, the stress center is less active.
Okay, okay,
But that particular network is not just the stress network. It's actually the emotion network.
okay.
So people on antidepressants, they say, yeah, I don't feel stressed so much, but I don't enjoy things as much.
Mm,
I think I have a sort of restricted emotional range.
mm,
Uh, and that often translates into is interested in things like food or sex or relationships. So there is a price to pay for dampening down the emotional center.
mm,
Psychedelics work at a much higher, they work in the most evolutionary recent parts of the brain, the,
mhm,
the cortex, which is much bigger in humans than any other species. And they work on the circuits
mm,
in which negative thoughts. So a disorder like depression is characterized by people having irrational thoughts about themselves. They think they're worthless, they're guilty, they've been done bad things, they feel guilty, they feel they don't deserve to have friends. These are completely irrational thoughts,
mm,
but they get locked in. They become thought loops.
mm,
And the more you think a thought, the more and more and more it gets ingrained. It's like a habit, like a thought
mm,
thinking habit, as opposed to, say, a motor habit like washing your hands.
mm.
And what psychedelics do is they break down those thought loops. And we can see that. We can see during the trip, the brain is in a very, very different state. People are no longer locked into those negative thought loops.
Okay.
And that then allows them to escape from depression.
Mm,
And they can see themselves escaping it. And when they're in the escape state, when the depression, for a few days afterwards, their brain is in a much better place to deal with the problems which led to the depression in the first place. So they can not only get out of the depression, but they can
mhm.
also set their mind towards a much more adaptive way of thinking about the future.